In November 2007, a group of Town of Markham employees flew to Guatemala to work on a community development project in the small mountainside town of San Miguel Escobar, Antigua. Using their vacation time and paying their own way, the 6 staff members became part of a 9-member team from Canada, who were tasked with building a community center for the townspeople. They had a week to complete the task. Find out how the team worked together to accomplish their goal and some of the things they learned during their unique adventure.
The group we chose to go down with is called As Green as It Gets. They're a non-profit organization. They're headed out of Guatemala and have ties to the United States. They provide a very detailed tour and a very well-planned and organized trip.
Overall, this was a very unique experience. It's not the kind of experience that you could have going with a travel agency or something. Part of the reason that I went was because I've always wanted to visit Central America.
Guatemala is one of the Latin American countries. It is right below Mexico, and it is a very small country. It's about the size of Tennessee. A community center for a third world country can be just about anything. A space that's fenced where cars aren't running by. It could be like a one building, or not even a building, just a place where there's a roof so that during rainy season people can gather without getting wet.
I think one of the most memorable things, I remember the first day that we got there and we started working on the project and finished our first part of the pour. And we looked around and went, oh boy, we got a lot of work to do.
We were expecting some sort of a construction project, but we were not expecting to mix the concrete. This was hard work and tiring. And during the breaks, you can see some of the people just lying there, sweating and lying there, and it looks like half dead.
Labor down there is cheap, but that doesn't mean that there's a lot of it. People have their farms to go to. It's really hard work. The physical labor down there is really extraordinary. So for us to go down and help them doing this physical labor, I think was really important. The guys who were on the work site actually went to their farms first thing in the morning, even before dawn, and were working on their own farms before they came to the work site. And then they'd work all day on the work site.
Our team was basically a sort of international team. You had a group of Canadians, which was us, consisting of 9 members, and a group of Guatemalans consisting of anywhere between 5 and 10 members. The 2 main Guatemalans we worked with were 2 coffee farmers. They provided construction experience as Guatemalan style goes, and they also provided layout and how we were going to do things and sort of a work plan for the day.
As foreigners, really, we had to acclimatize ourselves to their culture and the way that they do things.
We managed to overcome a few obstacles, like how to set the drainage or the incline for the pipe and the way North Americans would do it as opposed to the way Guatemalans would do it. Mixing concrete, we would have brought in a machine if we could. They mix it by hand. So we had a few lessons that we had to learn as far as how things sort of work.
When we got to the site and started working on the project, teamwork was very important. It's not that anybody set aside the rules and regulations on what we would do. It just naturally developed. People were doing what they were comfortable with, utilizing their strengths. Somebody had to spread the cement, somebody had to do the mixing. A lot of the stuff we took turns.
I'd help fill up a wheelbarrow, and then somebody stronger would take the wheelbarrow and move it. So everybody worked to their own capacity and did the things that they were able to do best. Once you got tired doing one thing, you were able to move to a different task and work a different set of muscles and do something else. So everybody worked together in that way, just doing whatever they could do.
I think when we might not necessarily ask for help, this was a good instance where people were asking for help, and there were definitely areas where team members had more knowledge than other team members of construction.
Everybody doing different things is great. You need the variety, the diversity to get things done, but if you don't have the goal at the end, you're not going to get there.
I think the groups meshed fairly well. Everybody went away with sort of a notion of forgiveness and helping and cooperativeness.
Just working with people from another culture that have different ways of doing things, different thinking, different language.
My biggest challenge, I would say, was not knowing the language. Having to depend on translators to do the little bit of communication, you realize how important it is to have that language skills when you are traveling abroad?
It was a new environment for us to work in. We didn't solve any problems prior to. Everything that happened that would come up as a problem, we solved that on site. We'd get together as a group and talk about, what's the best way to do certain things.
For instance, on the site where we needed to lay the concrete pad, there was a huge boulder, I'd say probably a couple of tons.
Here in Canada, or what we do with our construction, we would have probably taken that boulder and moved that off-site or removed it from the work area.
There they couldn't do that. First of all, there was no machinery there available to move the rock. Second, you can't move it onto an adjoining land because that's owned by somebody else. There's no real place to put it.
So what do? Just keep it simple. Dig a hole and use your power and your group strength and put it in the hole and cover it up.
The challenge was to make sure that the hole was deep enough to contain the boulder, because otherwise you put the boulder in there and it's sticking above ground level, and that'll be the end of it. There's no way to get that out.
I know at one point Tom came up with a great idea for a float, which was much bigger for the concrete in order to be able to smooth things out.
We use it a lot up here in North America, but for them they didn't have that kind of tool, so we actually ended up using local materials to build probably a 4-foot wide float on a long stick with hinges and bolts, and used that to skim the concrete and to flatten it out, and actually eventually started using it to move material around. So for them, that was innovative because they hadn't seen that sort of thing, and our team came up with that idea. We talked about it and we went out and we purchased the materials and tried to make do with what was available to us in Guatemala.
We didn't have any steam rollers, but we still had to level the ground. So we filled up barrels with water and then rolled the barrels across the ground.
Hey, here's Arup making it look like he's working hard. I think actually his barrel is empty.
At one point we had this great big stump, and 2 of the guys were pounding the stump up and down on the ground. So they were always able to think of a way to do what they had to do without actually using anything expensive.
The place will be used twofold, so it will be used as a community center and coffee drying during the coffee season. They'll use it for soccer tournaments, perhaps health clinics, for place for community groups to meet, women's health clinics, and things like that.
We spent 5 or 6 days building a concrete pad, and we christened it.
We took goalposts over there, put it there, and had a game of soccer with the kids.
It was just all about, look at all the hard work we've done, and it was a fantastic feeling. The one that sticks out of my mind the most.
To go to an environment like this, you challenge yourself. You only have the basics, the raw materials, and your fellow teammates to get a project or a task done. It was challenging, and it was a great teamwork environment.
I've been told that since we've left, in the days afterwards, that they can't keep those kids off that field. So it's pretty nice to hear that, something that we had done is being enjoyed by the community down there.